I'm Jeff Reed, the project manager for the Industrial Development Authority of Halifax County. And I have the pleasure of introducing someone who doesn't necessarily do this quite often. And we are thrilled that she has selected Halifax County to be one of the locations where she does come and speak. Panchak has been the editor once before of IndustryWeek and is now the editor-in-chief again of IndustryWeek. And as I don't need to tell most of you all, but IndustryWeek is one of the most outstanding industry publications on the globe, and they do some amazing stuff there, and we are absolutely thrilled that they have worked us into their itinerary and that Pat has agreed to come here and speak about advanced manufacturing, which is a subject that is near and dear to her heart. She is an award-winning journalist and editor and has covered industry for about 8 years, 9 years? Okay, okay. Longer than that, okay, okay. In the capacity of editor. In the capacity of editor. I will fine-tune that, in the capacity of editor. And has the privilege and honor of having a excellent team that supports her, and they get to go out and visit some of the most forward-thinking manufacturers in the United States. And tomorrow they are leading a group of about 20 to 25 who will be touring two of those outstanding manufacturers, ABB and Huber, right here in Halifax County. And as far as we know, this is their first visit to factories in Virginia. They do Harley-Davidson and Sherwin-Williams and a whole list of every name you can think of. They've probably been there. So we're thrilled to have you doing that as well as speaking to us today. So Pat, I am going to sit down and let you come up here and wow us all with your comments.
Thank you very much. Couldn't have said it better myself. As editor of IndustryWeek, I have the delightful opportunities to go out and meet and see and then share some of the best practices that manufacturers are using on all levels. A lot of times people view IndustryWeek as a sort of factory floor, plant floor publication because we do all the plant tours, and we have a special project called Best Plants where we select 6 to 10 of the best, what we call the best plants. It's a big competition. But really what we're writing about is the business of manufacturing. So from whatever it takes, from the leadership and strategy, the technology, the innovation, the workforce strategies, the supply chain, and of course, operations. But it is delightful. I'm so pleased to be here. It's always great to be among like-minded people. I did leave IndustryWeek for a little bit to work independently, and I ended up working on a manufacturing magazine. So it's kind of hard once you're in manufacturing and once you get it under your skin. The gravitational pull is too great. It's too interesting a topic. And to talk today about, I think, one of the most important and probably the among the most misunderstood topics of advanced manufacturing is particularly interesting. So today I'm going to dig into some of the details of advanced manufacturing and provide what I think is an optimistic but realistic view of where we stand in the United States. And then we'll look through some of the research and the data. And then I'm going to share with you just a few companies and how they're succeeding through what I would call a broad definition of advanced manufacturing. But before I do get into the details, I want to share with you an alternative reading of what's happening in the United States in the manufacturing sectors right now. Because a lot of people, in spite of a lot of attention on manufacturing, still think it's a natural process that manufacturing goes away. And IW doesn't believe that. We believe that manufacturing is the most dynamic, most interesting, most innovative and most challenging of endeavors. And we also think it's the most important sector of the nation's economy, and in fact, the global economy. We don't see manufacturing's evolution as something that goes from manufacturing to services and now our day is past. We see it as increasingly changing. Let me give you an example. In the 80s, the service sector was supposed to outpace or take over or oversee manufacturing. But services didn't overtake manufacturing. Manufacturers adapted to services. They started selling more than just products, but packages. In the 90s, the information technology sector, remember that? The 90s boom in the internet? They were supposed to overtake and become more important than manufacturing. But that's not what happened, because guess what? Manufacturers embraced internet technologies and information technologies. And now in the first decade of this century, globalization was supposed to kill manufacturing in the United States. But once again, manufacturers weren't overtaken by globalization. We embraced it. So this is where we are now. We have adapted to repeated changes in the economy. And we've embraced every change and become stronger and become greater as a result. Now, it's important to say, even as we're talking about advanced manufacturing, because manufacturing is continually becoming more sophisticated. But it's important, and I think you guys are doing a great job here, to not leave the traditional manufacturing sectors behind. Because everywhere I go, I see advanced manufacturing. I don't think I've been in a factory ever that was not an advanced manufacturer. Yeah, there's new industries, medical devices, pharmaceuticals, biotech, they'll grow. And yeah, there's some areas that have shrunk. But for the most part, if you look at it, steel is an old industry. It's a traditional industry with Rust Belt images of smokestacks and dirt. But there's nothing low-tech about the steel industry. I understand the tire research project is going on down the road. Tires have been around for quite a while. And we're still researching them, because the tires that were on my grandpa's car aren't the tires that are on my car. The auto industry is an old industry, right? Oh, we could just let it go, right? Wrong. It is not. An unskilled area. Same is true for metal forming, plastic forming, even textiles. So we at IW celebrate and actually take particular delight in talking about the winning companies that are in these old industries as well as in the new industries. But the first thing I wanted to do was talk about what in the heck is this advanced manufacturing? From my perspective, if it's all advanced manufacturing, why are we talking about what the state of advanced manufacturing is? And not everybody thinks the way we do, right? A lot of people think, oh, this old stuff is traditional, so go throw it away. So I went through and I was looking for some examples. Innovative technology to improve products and processes, and the words advanced and innovative and cutting edge. Those are always taking part of that. But that's one of the reasons this is so interesting, is so many people think so differently about it. So you got this simple definition. Sometimes people add the fact of the business processes. So improving performance of industry through innovative application of these technologies, but also the methods of product design. That's what we're talking about here. CAD, CAM, HPC, the methods by which Other people make sure that it includes science, basic science, fundamental research, right? So I'm still struggling here. What is advanced manufacturing? Is it defined by the products? Well, no, it's not, because it also involves the CAD, the CAM, and high-performance computing that goes into it. But yeah, there are high advanced manufactured products. They're technologically complex. They're newer, better, exciting. They have very high levels of design. Or maybe it's the processes, which I think the people in this room agree: CAD, CAE, 3D manufacturing, which we'll hear about in a few minutes. And then there's the management methodologies: quality control, lean production, lean management, supply chain integration. So maybe that's involved as well. Maybe it's just something else. You know, we've got this traditional versus advanced again. Put the auto, the steel, the metal benders and the metal cutters over there, you know, and then put the biopharmaceuticals over here, and then the aerospace and all the exciting stuff. And, you know, there's certain differences, you know, between those two. Maybe it's the company characteristics. So maybe it's just a company that's got a unique ability to create a competitive advantage and thinks faster, does faster. Okay, so Apple is an advanced manufacturer, maybe. I don't know. Maybe it's just whatever worked. Maybe if it worked, then we can say, oh, it's advanced manufacturing. Because they're successful manufacturers, they're advanced. Well, one thing we can certainly all agree on is that it kind of defies a definition. It's constantly changing. The steel industry of old is not the steel industry of new. The auto manufacturer, the tire manufacturers of old is not happening in the new. So, and probably advanced is different whether you're in the tire industry or if you're in the pharmaceutical industry. So it's constantly dynamic, which, if you remember, that was my original definition. Constantly changing, constantly dynamic, constantly innovating. Why? Because we have to. So maybe we should ask an organization that has the name. They're the National Council on Advanced Manufacturing, makes extensive use of computer, high precision, and IT information technologies integrated with a high-performance workforce and a production system capable of furnishing a heterogeneous mix of products in small or large volumes with both the efficiency and mass production and the flexibility of the custom manufacturing in order to respond quickly to customer demand. Hey, we're getting pretty close here, you know? We're getting pretty close. We're piling all those things on top of each other, and we're kind of coming to the term. And then there's I think this is the last one. PCAS, the President's Council on Advanced of Advisors on Science and Technology. If you're not aware of those, it's a council that advises the president. They've been advising the president for a long time, and occasionally they turn up and they start talking about manufacturing. And for the most part, use and coordination of information, automation, computation, software sensing, cutting-edge materials. That's probably the first time we've heard the real cutting-edge materials. And introducing biological sciences. The biological science involved. So very, very interesting. And then it also involves the new ways to manufacturing existing products and the manufacture of new products from emerging and advanced new technologies. So, you know, I'm kind of setting this up because how do you tell the state of something when you don't even know what it is? Okay? You don't even really know what it is. But it isn't an academic exercise, because if you don't know what something is, how are you going to measure it? So there are people, though, who measure things that are kind of close around it. Census Bureau. Of 22,000 product codes, 500 are labeled advanced technology products. So this is getting close. And literally a separate trade balance has been computed for this subgroup since 1988. So I thought, okay, I'll go there. I'll go look for that number and, you know, chase those out. Looks a little grim. The balance of trade for the advanced technology products was in surplus from 1988 and before then, obviously, to 2002, and when it went negative. Now this was in the face of a 25% decline in the major currency U.S. dollar index, which, let the finance people figure that one out, from the Federal Reserve, okay? And this also, at the same time that U.S. manufacturing firms' investments in R&D outside the United States grew from 2007 to 2009 at almost 3 times the rate that those companies were investing in their domestically funded research and development. Yee, not very fun. So this is what PCAST says. Basically, that China and India and all those other countries are pursuing all forms of manufacturing. You remember that when we opened up, you know, all these people who were saying what's a natural progression that manufacturing, you know, kind of reduced in size, kind of followed the agricultural model, right? So agriculture was great big, and then it got real productive, and then it got small as we moved into manufacturing. Well, then we were supposed to move into something else. Maybe it was finance. Well, actually, it was the internet, and then it was finance, derivatives, and all of that. But that is not what is happening, because you know these other countries, these undeveloped countries or the developing, they're not playing by the rules. See, they're supposed to wait until we get a lot of the value out of this new stuff. You know, we invent it, and then we're supposed to get all the value out of it, and then when it's like, you know, we'll give them their hand-me-downs. They're not playing by those rules anymore. They actually want to be innovators. Huh. The gall. So it's not working that way. R&D intensity is another measure. This is the National Science Foundation. And R&D intensity, and again, this is kind of a wonky thing, R&D divided by GDP for an economy, and that's what you see here. And for companies, industries, and sectors, it's R&D divided by sales. So I'm showing you the companies here, and we're, you know, in the middle. So that's not horrible, you know. We're in the game. We're still here. So where we are is, and then I have another number. It's an industry, okay? So we can measure it by particular industries, and literally in a single year, we went from a $2 billion solar trade surplus, that's manufactured goods into the solar industry, in 2010 to an estimated $1.6 billion trade deficit to one country. Oy vey. So we do have this issue. You know, the United States is lagging behind competitor nations in providing the business environment and skilled workforce needed for advanced manufacturing. This, again, is from the PCAST. That little symbol down there is the presidential seal. And these are reports that came out in late 2011 and 2012, okay? So our long-term ability to innovate and compete in the global economy benefits from co-location of manufacturing. So what they're recognizing is all that manufacturing that went overseas that nobody really worried about because it went overseas because we were going to do all the high-valued stuff, well, it didn't work out quite that way. Because when you send the production overseas, you also send the innovative capacity. A lot of the design needs are identified in the manufacturing process, and co-locating those is very important. So we kind of got ourselves in a little fix. So the global challenge. We've got a big global challenge going on here. Imports are flooding the United States because high labor costs, unfavorable trade rules, and we've heard about all of this. It's all during the presidential elections. Regulations, liability reform, currency manipulation. We got all sorts of problems, and we've been hearing about that forever. Guess what? This quote is from 1971. IndustryWeek. So I don't mean to minimize the challenges, but we've been here before, and guess what? We're going to be here again in another 10 years, and another 20 years, and another 30, 40, 50 years, and our kids are going to be dealing with this. And I always like to come back to some examples. When Toyota challenged U.S. automakers in the late 70s, and when this quote was around, in the early 80s, the U.S. automakers didn't roll over. They responded by reimagining the old relic, the station wagon, and invented the minivan. It didn't exist. What? Yeah, it did exist. Wait a minute. It's a new product, but it's not really a new product because it's already been there, but it's a new product for a new market. They re-envisioned the station wagon, and they glommed on the full-size minivan, or full-size van, and pooh, presto, you got a sales whiz, man. Oh, and then Toyota caught up with the minivan. You know what happened? We reinvented that old trusty stand-by the pickup truck. Turned it into the trendy, profit-generating SUV. Those things were making money. They were making money on those things hand over fist. Similar thing happened when Japanese manufacturers captured the memory chip market from the U.S. manufacturers. Remember that? They turned their U.S. semiconductor manufacturers actually created a consortium called Sematech. Got together, and they turned their attention from the low-margin business, and unfortunately, this was some of the things that encouraged those people who thought, oh, we're just going to do the higher value-added stuff. And they've since dominated the higher value-added semiconductor marketplace. So history shows us whenever there's a challenge to the status quo, there are opportunities, and I know that's a cliche, but U.S. manufacturers, the U.S. manufacturing sector has continually responded. And what IndustryWeek does is, and in fact, one of the awards we won was around how did they do that? And the question was, remember the recession from 2000 to 2003-ish or so? We're sitting here writing and reporting, and it was like, wait a minute. We got this massive recession going on here, and there are companies that are making money hand over fist. And we had a couple of questions for that. How do they do it? And, what are they doing specifically? So that's what we look for. So it seems to me that we're at an inflection point, but an inflection point is probably a little too harsh of a word for that, because it's always going on. Manufacturing is it's not one entity. It's a series of entities. That's why we have all those NAICS codes. You know, I think there's, 15, 20 NAICS codes around manufacturing. So we might be enjoying some success in one, we might be in the middle of another and tanking in another. So, but the statistics aren't very good when you think in terms of the traditional ways of advanced manufacturing. We've got this discussion of a national manufacturing strategy into whether we need it or not. Anybody who believes in manufacturing says, yeah, let's get started. But there's a lot of people out there who think, nope, don't need it. And then we have the national strategies of most countries. Because what most developing countries have discovered is the way to prosper, the way to grow an economy is through manufacturing. At all levels of employment, manufacturing wins out. But we do have some good news, and I was very happy to find this. And when I came back to IndustryWeek, one of my first editorials was, it's so good to come back when I'm seeing all this stuff about the importance of manufacturing and manufacturing revitalization and renaissance, and Boston Consulting Group has done some reports on reshoring. Imagine it, all that is happening. The reshoring trend is happening, and we haven't really changed the tax code yet. We haven't fixed the currency implications. We haven't, reformed torts. We still have, high costs of labor, but we're doing something right. And by the way, China's also their costs are increasing. So, and not only are their costs increasing, but people are discovering that even when the costs were so low, the total landed cost of the stuff they were doing in China and bringing back to the U.S. was not as great as they originally thought. But we've got a mobilization going on right now. Roger Kilmer, the director of NIST's Manufacturing Extension Partnerships, he handed me this thing, and this is when I first got back, 25 plans or strategies, and they're from the Information Technology Innovation Foundation. They're from the White House, from the President's Council of Advisors on Science and Technology, several consulting companies, Boston Consulting, Booz & Company, National Association of Manufacturers, which, they're tried and true. We had some new ones come on, the Alliance of American Manufacturing, the Council on Competitiveness, I believe was mentioned earlier, even the AFL-CIO, McKinsey Global Institute. So we have a lot of ideas of how we can go forward on this. And since 1980, every single state and many local governments and business alliances, such as yours, have established technology-based economic development programs and have invested between $2 and $3 billion per year on this problem. So do we need a national manufacturing strategy, or is it fabulous that we have hundreds of strategies? I'll leave the evaluation to you. So we do have to do something. The challenge is out there. We can't just sit still, because if you sit still, everybody passes you up. And technology in products, as you know, is not the only answer. So the latest technological product, the iPad, wild success. What's happening? Everybody's copying it. There's got to be more to advanced manufacturing than just advanced technology products. It's got to be the inputs as well as the outputs. So manufacturers are competing from, U.S. manufacturers are competing from a position of strength. It is being tested, and they cannot become complacent. And it's good to be a little paranoid. I believe there's a famous Intel person who said something about only the paranoid survive, so let's get a little paranoid, guys. So global strategies. So what do we have to do? And, we need to discover, and quickly, I think, what successful companies are doing, what successful counties are doing, what successful states are doing, and learn from them, not copy them, but learn the philosophies, the principles behind their strategies, and adapt them to our needs, our community's needs, our company's needs, our state's needs. Now, I focus on companies. That's where my wheelhouse is. And basically, one of the things that you find is that it's not one thing that's going to fix all of your problems. But innovation, one of the things that I find is there's a traditional definition of innovation, right? And I think you got to be innovative about what you say what innovation is in your company. It's the technology, it's the business models, it's the production processes. It's how you market, it's how you brand. So, because not all of us can be iPad developers, but maybe we can develop the safer tire. Maybe we can develop the longer lasting tire. And again, looking back at the auto industry, basically we're vehicles. They innovated new vehicles. And I will tell you, those vehicles are designed differently and built differently. So the way I look at it is that innovation is not just on the factory floor or in the research and development lab. It's in the business suite, it's in the office, it's on the production floor. It doesn't just involve skunk works, group off to the side, special people. It involves every single person in your organization. And one of my examples here is Dell. Dell didn't invent anything in computers. He invented how to put the stupid things together, how to put the components together faster so that he could get paid before he had to deliver it. That was a finance thing. And I always bring up the late, great management guru, Peter Drucker, who actually said, the future is about innovations and marketing. You know, a lot of us forget about the marketing. We make this thing and we don't market it. So what can you offer that your competitor can't? What can we offer here in Virginia that somebody in Ohio can't? What can we offer in the United States that somebody in Germany can't? And you have to constantly innovate, and you have to really understand your customer. And what is the value added that they will pay for? Toyota is great at this. And they actually have a whole production method that enables them to know what their next innovation is going to be as they're releasing their current innovation. And I can't go into that detail right now. But the interesting thing is the Toyota Sienna, okay? So this was probably in 2003-ish, you know, around last time when I was working at it there. So the big three were given cash rebates, cut rate financing, and other incentives to pump up market share, sell their cars, get them off the lot. Meanwhile, Toyota Sienna buyers were paying full ticket price. They were waiting 3 months for their delivery of their vehicle. And Toyota was overtaking, that was at the time that Toyota was overtaking the big three in minivans. Why? What were they doing that the other guys weren't? It's product innovation for the customer. They stuffed its cars with extra amenities that their customers were willing to pay for and held the line on the price because they were able to give these things to the customers as the customers were willing to pay for them. And one of the way I learned this was at a soccer game. I'm sitting next to somebody, I'm in the market for a minivan. I'm sitting next to a mom. I'm like, yeah, we're looking at the Honda Odysseys, you know, and oh no, I'm doing a Prius or a Sienna. Why in the world do you want to wait for? You know, she was like, it's not going to be. I'm hoping it's going to get here by Christmas. You know, this is September. What? I was always told that you had to be faster, cheaper. What's the other thing? More innovative. No, she wanted the heated steering wheel. And she was willing to wait for it and pay for it, full price. You know, they also have 7, at the time, now this is a little bit of an older story, but they had 7 speakers, you know, around that they could be individually, you know, so the kids in the back, you know, weren't blasting you out with their stuff. And they also had more cup holders. Oh, brother. So one of the things that told me was we worry so much about cost, the thing that we're worst at in the United States, because we have higher paid employees, we have all these regulations that keep the air clean, dang it. We have this torch that keep us, you know, presumably safe. Now, I'm being a little flip there. You know, there are in places too much regulation, and there are in places too many lawsuits. But really, I mean, all of this stuff, all this cost stuff is really, really getting us down. But we've forgotten. We're so worried about cost that we're the worst at. We've forgotten to compete on innovation, which is what we're best at. And I want to say that over and over and over again. I want to hire a plane to fly over top of cities. And I want to hire somebody to deliver the message to Christine Romer, who says, "Oh, why invest in manufacturing?" So one of the things that the successful manufacturers do is they identify what's of value and what is of value. So to really understand innovation for competitive advantage and its value creation for the customer, what will they pay for? Make them not think about the price. And once upon a time, we only valued the product because that's really all the customer cared about. So is the product. But we've started, as we go through these transitions, we realized that services were important. We realized that the information about the product was important. We realized that the brand was important. And it wasn't that long ago that we really finally acknowledged that what value can be brought to bear on a product through the production process. How we do things, quality, speed, on-time delivery, and the ways that we can do that through better management practices like lean, better tools like machine tool automation, of all of the technologies that are celebrated in this country. Is not the least celebrated, the most underappreciated machine tools and machine tool automation, the cutting equipment, the things that do the things that your CAD CAM system was simulating there in that meeting? And most of the plants, in fact, that I've looked at, that I've toured, they not only have the latest production technology, they've customized it. So New Balance, the last remaining athletic shoe manufacturer in the United States, doesn't just use standard shoemaking equipment. They've had their people customize it. And in some cases, build machine tools from scratch. It happened at Hahn at the file cabinet factory. I mean, how hard is it to make a file cabinet, right? Well, these guys were building and altering existing machine tools so that they could make them faster with less damage and all of that. So the product, the tighter tolerances, the more difficult things to manufacture, and then, of course, can you get stuff done more quickly? Services, financing. For a while, GM existed on financing their cars. Well, if the car manufacturer can do that, there's something else. Installation, these are all parts of what I would call a selling solution, and combinations of which can really make sure that your competitor can't copy you. If your competitor can copy you on creating that new product, but they can't keep up with you on installation and information about that and the fact that you've branded it and can deliver it faster, then you've got something. Information is also important. Where is it? Now, especially in the OEM world, right? Because if it's still out there on the train and it was supposed to be offloaded on the freight truck and on the way to the plant, you better know about it, right? How much of it is there? The earthquake, the tsunamis. Okay, I got to get my hands on these circuit boards. Where are they? How many are there? How many can you get me? For how much? When can I have it? And this ability to share this information with your customers as well as with your suppliers puts you in that catbird seat. Now, the brand. We don't really pay a whole lot of attention to brands, or maybe we pay too much attention to brands. But we don't really think about it when we're thinking about manufactured goods, because we think about the production. We don't think about the business of manufacturing. Right? But public opinion has forced companies, brands, to changing the products they sell, the wages they pay, the materials they use, the environment policies they follow. They influence what manufacturers do, and you can work that back the other way. So all of this other stuff is all, you know, frou-frou in many minds, right? But I got to say that I do agree with that other management guru, Jack Welch, who once said, without product, you're dead. So your focus begins, middles, and ends on the product. So what I want to do now is just share some companies that I've looked into, and you know, just 3 of them that were surprising to me when I went out and said, you know, geez, these companies are doing really well in this recession. How are they doing it? What are they doing? And one is, I say, what is high tech? Because this group of people, you know, they manufacture high-tech water and oil pumps for diesel engines. The very kind of product that, you know, probably we should just get that from China because it'd be cheaper, right? Not these guys. They opened the hood, and instead of seeing an old product, a traditional manufactured good, they opened it up and they said, hey, you know, we could do some really interesting, neat stuff with that. So they took a fresh look at the products, and literally they had been making these products all along, and as you can see, they were not doing well in '92, and after they started focusing on their products, like the Silicon Valley people, we called this the Silicon Valley mentality. It was like, you know how a lot of old line manufacturers, you know, they produce a product and they're gonna sell that thing for 15 years, right? Not anymore, you're not. So literally, this group said, we're gonna take a look at these products that we've been making all along with a Silicon Valley mentality, and we are going to create new functionality, new products every 6 months. So these products that hadn't been updated for decades, they infused them with the latest technology. They're being awarded patents, grew right through the recession. I don't know. What's technology? And I know you guys in this area have some traditional manufacturers. And I'm thinking textiles, Polar Tech, huge new technology. Gore-Tex, huge new technology. Okay, but anybody who's thinking, oh, textiles, you know, ship it overseas, aren't going to think, wait a minute, we can make this product warmer and yet lighter, and yet more comfortable because it breathes, okay? Only people who can think that anything can be improved, anything can be innovated on, are the people who can do that kind of stuff. And I think every one of us can do it as long as we change how we think of things. Here's another one, Gordon Industries. Probably never heard of them. They're in, I think they're on Hudson, New York. They make industrial metal doors and stairs. This is not a high-tech product, guys. And no, they didn't like make a move or anything with high technology. But basically, this guy was doing well. But he was undone by a plunge in the construction market by developers, his main customers. So his customers didn't have any money to spend. So even if they'd wanted to buy his stuff, they couldn't. So he's like, I got to think like an entrepreneur. And I got to start thinking about making something patentable. Because, you know, a patentable product is valuable, high technology. It's advanced, right? So he, you know, one of his first things he did was he had a kid who was in karate, so he built a kind of a metal thing that the kid could kick or, you know, do his moves on, and it didn't do very well. And you know, he went on for a while, and he's thinking, and he's thinking, and he's thinking, and he finally gets a phone call. He didn't think anything about this, because somebody calls and says, you know those metal ramps you make for industrial? I wonder if you can make them for home use, because, you know, my mom is coming home with a new knee, which Lord knows is happening more often. And we don't want to pour the concrete and get the construction people, and we just want to put something up that's quick and easy and actually can be taken down, because this is a temporary situation. And the guy said, no, we don't sell there. Click. Wait a minute, yeah. My original market is industrial, right? But why couldn't I sell to consumers? So during this time, he made a great breakthrough consumer product. He made ramps for homes. He sold them for $2,000, rented them for $60 a week. Sales went up, as you can see, 30% in 2000, 50% in 2001, 50% in 2002. Two-thirds of his total revenue of $4 million, and it became a separate division. Christopher Reeve's wife was one of the first purchasers of the product. Now he franchised it. And lo and behold, I see in last year's Inc. magazine, they're up to 43 franchises now, adding 5 new locations every year. Created a whole new business because his mind was geared to thinking about new products, new markets that are patentable, and I can create a new business. Okay, the third one, Stockwell Elastomerics. Wow, it was Stockwell Rubber back when I first heard of them. They make rubber components for analytical instrumentation and medical equipment. And basically, he was in the same boat with a lot of other people. You know, they were engineering oriented, but you know, they wanted to win that product and they wanted to supply that product for life, right? So they would get in there at the early stage of the game, design something that was fabulous, and then start producing that thing for that company. And you know, sometimes it was big companies. And he'd get the phone call, and the phone call was, geez, sorry man, you did such a great job for us, but we can get this done overseas so much less expensively. So this guy said, okay, I'm done. Oh, actually he didn't. He went to Mexico first to see if he could do the high quantities in Mexico and make a go of it. And he didn't like it, so he didn't do that. So he basically changed his business model. And he says, what I've had to do is look at our manufacturing business as a service company that happens to manufacture the product that we provide. I don't go toe-to-toe with offshore high-volume, low-cost manufacturers. Instead, we prototype and do initial production runs of 500 to 10,000 units and manufacture usually for 12 to 18 months, and we know it's going to go offshore. Now, this company, I checked in with them again before I came here to see, okay, what are they doing now? And this is what they're doing. They're doing the engineering, they're doing the prototyping, and they're really working on spinning the speed on fast. Because what ends up happening is all these companies that need this product apparently don't think of it until the very end of the design process. It's like, oh, we need this thing to be waterproof? Oh. So, so he's there, and he's invested in water jet cutting technology. That's the main theme. Invested in this piece of equipment to speed this process. Invested in this piece of equipment to speed that process. But it's part of his business model now. That's how he goes to business. So innovation, maybe advanced technology or advanced manufacturing, is really knowing and understanding the levers that you need to pull to create value as determined by the customer. And it does. You guys are well on your way because you've got probably 50, 60, 70% covered with some of this technology you're doing. And diffusing it the way you're doing across the portion of the state is pretty amazing. And I didn't want to leave also without, because I have a whole presentation on, okay, here are the strategies that each companies need to follow. Here are ideas that you might want to adapt. And almost all of the companies that I talk to in the United States say it's not the cheapest labor, but it's the best labor with the highest productivity. And there's a whole sheaf, as you probably are aware of, most of them even, of practices that increase employee ownership of the process, and in the process, employee involvement in this innovation. Because sometimes the innovation does come from the worker. I can't go into that, but they can be an incredible source. And I will tell you, this is something that just comes to mind because we're in the midst of selecting our best plants. And part of the process, after they've filled out a 22-page research survey, just spilling their guts about their first pass yields and their cost of overtime and cost of rushes and things like that, is we go and see the plant. And we see if they're doing what they said they were doing. And I got to tell you, the most touching, most impactful thing that happens to me at the plant floor is we don't take the manager's just statement as fact, and we don't just go into the conference room and talk to the managers. We walk the floor, we talk to the production people, and I got to tell you, when you see a middle-aged guy, kind of burly, he's running a cutting machine, and he kind of tears up when he says, these are the first people who ever asked me how I could improve this process. And not only did they do that, they didn't only ask me, we changed the process so that we could do it. It's huge. Best plants facility after best plants facility, you go in and you talk to these people, and most of them will even say, they came in with this lean thing, and I really hated it. But you know what? Now I like it. It's not an easy process. I mean, it's probably easier just getting a new machine, right? But that's one of the really big struggles, I think, that we're having here is we have this workforce that's over there, and we have to fix them somehow. We have to do something to fix them, okay? But really, that's not what we need to do. We need to bring them into the process. And that's a whole nother story. So anyway, I get to pontificate on things that matter to me. So lean management. I bring up lean management. It's a management process, but it's an innovation. It's one of the most significant innovations in manufacturing on the plant floor for as long as you can tell. The machine that changed the world was lean manufacturing processes. Now, and now it's not just lean production, it is lean management. And there are a lot of people who don't understand lean, who don't get it, who don't understand it completely, who say, well, that doesn't have anything to do with the customer. Well, if you say the lean has nothing to do with the customer, you better go back to your books and study some lean, because lean is all about serving the customer. Of course, it eliminates waste, it produces on demand, and I will go so far as to say, even though it's really critical to do, it is a necessary but not sufficient strategy for competing in a global market. But I do believe that the better you are at this operations excellence, and the involvement of the employees that is part and parcel of a true lean management system, the more effective everything else you do will be. All the new technologies that you bring in, all the new machine tools you bring in, all of the new product development processes that you put in will be better. And here's the call for, once we've succeeded, we got to start over. And preferably before you start seeing that, how the life cycle of a new product, it kind of goes up like this, and then whoop, you got to start over. Probably got to start over. How long before someone, starts making ramps out of molded plastic composite and selling them at Walmart? Whew, that gives me shivers if I were him. How long before the engineered machine products technology is copied? Well, with their Silicon Valley mentality, hey, let them copy it. Because by the time they copy it, I'm going to be on to the next one. And then Stockwell Merrick's, again, continuing to invest. He's not resting on his laurels. So the companies that we go out and talk to succeed in spite of the worst manufacturing recessions, 2 of them now I've lived through, at least lived through knowingly. In spite of the influx of low-cost competition from fast-emerging, lower-cost producing countries, in spite of unfavorable currencies, in spite of the higher costs we faced in healthcare, energy, regulations, and tax, in spite of the aggressive and questionable trade practices by some of our fiercest competitors. So we can get this done. Now, one thing I always like to, we are nearing the end. I'm coming to a conclusion here. It really doesn't matter what your strategies are. Now this, in Harvard Business Review did a survey of these 200 different management practices or management strategies and graded them on their value. Okay, so the answer was none of them. It didn't even really matter what strategy you followed as long as you followed it. And generally, there were some other details in this, in that, okay, if you're going to be a product innovator and you're going to be the first to market, those two things matter to you. But that means that you might not have to compete on price, you know? So it was a matter of taking a hard look, like Stockwell Elastomics took a hard look at what they did. And they said, what is our company really, really good at? And what strategy can we adapt and what we can grab so that we can stay in the game and stay ahead of the game? And that's what they did. They're engineers. Yeah, they engineer products to specification and do the prototyping. But they decided on that because they looked inside. They didn't look outside. They looked inside themselves and said, oh, wait a minute, you know, there's other companies kind of like engineer machine products. They looked at other companies that they could be like, and they adapted a strategy, the Silicon Valley mentality, to their product. And then they followed it. So this isn't a matter, I always like to share this because, you know, everybody wants the answer, you know? Is it B? Should I do B now? Oh, maybe I should do C. But that's not the answer. None of these successful companies, you're not going to be able to pick up their strategy and plop them on your company and be successful. In fact, you'll probably be terrible at it. You got to look inward and then find the ideas and then adapt them. And I write about that quite a lot because otherwise. So, what's the state of advanced manufacturing in the United States? Whew. A lot of challenges ahead. But I am very optimistic. In spite of those dreadful numbers that I shared with you at the beginning of the year, we have many efforts at many levels, including yours, which is like multi-levels from your one group, you know, coming at it from all of these different directions and in leveraging the strengths of what's existing, what has existed here. And then building on those strengths, layering in the high broadband, and then saying, "Whoa, this is high broadband. Now we can do this computer simulation stuff over the web," you know, and then layering it on. And there are many companies out there getting it right. They're world beaters. A lot of them we don't know about because they're not huge, but they're out there and they're very profitable and they're very successful and they're growing. They're employing more people. One of the things is you have to want to succeed at manufacturing in the United States. You can't want to say, oh, the obstacles are too high. We got all these things against us, and not only that, too many people focus on those. I mean, leave the lobbying to NAM. NAM will go ahead. NAM will fight your tax battle, and you know, and the other people too. This is an endorsement of NAM or anything, but leave that to other people. Focus on what you can do well, and look at what you can bring. And you'll be surprised how many you find, because, you know, I didn't think I would find a whole lot of companies that had succeeded right through the recession, and I think the speech that I was given back then was 10, 12, 15 companies. You know, a plastics injection molder who had, you know, tripled in size, things like that. So, as the President might say at the State of the Union, I think the state of U.S. advanced manufacturing is strong. And I think that with the efforts that you guys and so many other organizations like you guys in so other many states and communities and individual companies are really attacking this problem, we get our wake-up call and we answer it. So it is strong, and I see a very bright future. Thank you.